This is Girl, Take Note, a podcast for women who are looking to turn their dreams into reality. Hey, Matt, welcome to Girl, Take Note. How are you?
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to have this conversation because, as I mentioned before we came on, I feel like we're all searching for happiness, depending on, I guess, what that looked like for everyone. And so I felt like it was an important conversation to have because I feel like even me, myself, right? I'm on this journey of entrepreneurship. I'm doing podcasts, doing all this other stuff. But also, I feel like, am I really happy? You know what I mean? Like, is it, I don't know. It's like I'm searching for happiness. I'm searching for things that bring me joy. And I felt like this conversation is important, especially for women who are entrepreneurs, women who are corporate girlies, and just trying to figure out, what does happiness look like? How do we, if we can truly define it? So before we jump into it, kind of share a little bit about your personal journey and how you became so passionate about teaching people how to be happy.
Yeah, it happened with a lot of unhappiness. That's why okay. And then I was like, okay, I'll become an entrepreneur and I'll go and have all this business success. And then that success, then when I have all the business success and I got the house and I have a car and I got the family and it all looks right, as soon as it all looks right, then I'll be happy, right? And so I grinded and grinded and grinded and I did all of those things, every single thing, the businesses and, the success, and exceeded actually all the goals I had set when I started out. And I still wasn't happy. And I'm like, okay, so it's actually two different skill sets. Achieving in the external world and then finding internal happiness is two totally different skill sets. They don't correlate. And we know this because, well, I just told you, I did that. I wasn't happy.
Yes.
Of course, I enjoyed some of the things, but, I just heard somebody talk about being a billionaire, and it was John Maxwell. John Maxwell, the leadership guru. John Maxwell just talked a little while ago, and he said, even if you have 10 sports cars, you can only drive one at a time.
Yeah.
He said, even if you have a beach vacation home and a mountain vacation home and you've got your home, you can only sleep in one bed at a time. So actually accumulating all these things, it doesn't increase your happiness. You're still right where you are. It doesn't matter how many different places you can sleep. You can only be in one spot at once. And so that's, now I'm like, okay, I need to teach more people who, great, go get the success. Listen to Shaunie. Listen about how to grow your entrepreneurial success. And at the same time, if you grow your happiness, which is what we're going to talk about today, you actually get more success and you get to enjoy it at the same time.
Yes. Most people feel like happiness is something that just kind of like happens to them, right? They feel like as soon as I get to this place, like you said, I'll be happy. I'm just trying to get there. And how did you come to see happiness as a choice versus something that just kind of like happens to you?
It doesn't just happen to you. It doesn't. It's actually a skill. It's a skill and it takes practice. And there are deliberate things you can do to get better. Just like I love to play basketball. If I want to become a better basketball player, I have to practice my ball handling skills. I got to practice my jump shot. And you got to practice a lot. Like if you want to be Kobe Bryant, you got to take 1,000 shots a day. That's a lot of practice. Well, shoot, if you want to be Kobe Bryant of happiness, you got to practice happiness a lot. So this is what we need to practice. The first thing is that happiness is in the now. It's in this moment. With the idea that once I do these things at that moment in the future, that time I'll be happy. What we're doing is we're delaying our happiness until the future. Well, what happens is we get to that point and we're like, oh, but then there's this point. It's even further. And we get to that point, we're like, yeah, but that person has that. And then they've got a private jet and they've got a yacht and their yacht's bigger than mine. And it just goes on and on and on. And we continue. That's the habit of delaying happiness so you can never catch it. It's like trying to run towards the horizon. As you chase the horizon keeps going further and further and further away from you. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work to say, once I finish school, then I'll be happy. Or once I make 100,000 a year, then I'll be happy. Once I get my soulmate, then I'll be happy. As soon as you get to that point in the future, you still have the exact same happiness skill set as you have this point if you haven't grown it. So we need to grow it in this moment so that when we get to that moment, we have it even better. So the first thing is we got to get present. We can only be happy right where we are in this moment. So a lot of people talk about mindfulness. I do too. A yoga practice, anything. Even if you like to go to the gym, or if you like to walk, or if you like to run, if you like to have great conversation, if you get lost in music, anything where we're totally connected to this present moment is something that can make us happy. I recommend a practice where we practice being where we are and getting out of our thoughts about the future and out of our thoughts about the past and just being immersed in where we are. For me, that looks like a meditation practice. And the better we get at being here, the better chance we have of being happy.
Yeah. You know what? That's so true. We're always working towards the future, and even sometimes the mere thought of our future sometimes kind of scares us too, right? Put us in a place because we're always working towards that thing. Do you think that society has a lot to do with what we believe happiness is, what we define happiness, that comparison, of like, hey, I'm at a certain place in my life. I should have this already. Or I'm looking at this person and they're married, they got a family and I don't have it. Do you think we really look at the societal things, external things to define happiness for us?
Yep, for sure. We can't, man. And it happens so easy too. You see that Mercedes commercial and like, it's just subliminally, you're like, I don't have that status. So I need to get that status. And then at that point, I'll be happy. I've fallen for it. I still fall for it. Society has a lot of pressure on us. But again, coming back to present moment awareness, in this moment, we have everything we need. In this moment, we have everything we need. And I know that to be true because we're alive. If we didn't have what we needed to be alive, we wouldn't be alive. But we are. So we have all the air we need to breathe. We have all the water we need to drink. We have all the food we need to eat. We have all the connections that we need in our life. We have all the shelter we need. We have all the clothing we need. We actually have everything we need right now to survive, or else we wouldn't be surviving. So coming back into this present moment and saying, all I need is what I have. And then we move into gratitude. So one of the best happiness practices we could possibly do is gratitude.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a couple of my favorite. Look, we can't overdo gratitude. I want to be grateful all the time. I want to be grateful when I wake up. I want to be grateful when I say hi to my wife. I want to be grateful when I see my kids. I want to be grateful when I go to work. I want to be grateful when I get home from work. I want to be grateful at dinner. I want to be grateful at bed. I want to be grateful the whole day. So this idea that once I get that certain point, then I'll be happy. That means I'm not happy with what I have. Well, let's reverse it. I'm so grateful for what I have. And guess what? If I already think I have enough, I just automatically get more. I don't know why it works that way. When we're saying I need more, we're in a state of lack. And so we're actually saying there's not enough. And so we manifest more of being in a state of lack. When we're in a state of abundance, saying, I'm so grateful I have all this abundance around me, we actually attract more abundance. So we become more successful and become more grateful. My first step of the day is gratitude. When I wake up, my left foot hits the ground on top of a little piece of paper that says thank you on it. And I say thank. And then my right foot hits the ground and I say you. And I walk through the house saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, so that my very first thoughts of the day are grateful thoughts. That's how I want to start my day. I do that every day. It doesn't take any extra time, no extra effort. I just had to tape a little piece of paper to the floor that says thank you to remind myself to start my day with gratitude. And I just explained why we want to do that. We can't be hateful when we're grateful. We can't be upset with somebody when we're grateful. We can't not have enough when we're grateful. So when we're grateful, we're happy. And then another easy place to add gratitude is before you eat anything. In my family, we pray. So at dinner, we join hands and we say, thank you for this meal. Thank you that we have food on our plate. There's people right now that don't have food on their plate.
Yeah.
But today we do.
Yeah.
And I am thankful there's food on our plate. You know what happens? Let's say we had a bad day at work. We lost a client. We lost some money. And then we get to dinner and we realize that we have food on our plate today. That negativity from whatever negative action happened, it lessens a bit as we say, but there's food here today. And I'm thankful for that. And then from that mindset of I'm thankful there's food here today, we have now hope and possibility that things aren't as bad as we thought they were. And from that hope and possibility place, we can go create way more. The only thing that holds us back is our own negative feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. It's our own negative thoughts. And I don't know why it is, but I've asked this question before that I feel like as people, a lot of us, and I sometimes do this, we seem to feel so much more comfortable in the negative than the positive. You know what I mean? Because in some form of fashion or mindset will tell us that what truly makes us, what we truly want, what's truly gonna make us happy, we really can't achieve it. You know, like it's the doubt that comes into play. But I noticed that a lot of people are more comfortable believing the negative. That's saying, well, think the worst and hope for the best, right? Which I'm like, well, why do I gotta think the worst and then hope for the best? Why can't I just hope for the best and think the best?
Yeah, no, so totally agree with you, Shaunie. And you've hit on a very important point. Our mind's default is negative. There's a study done by the National Science Institute that found that 80% of our thoughts are negative thoughts. 8 out of 10. So the mind is constantly feeding us negative thoughts. It's judging other people. It's criticizing other people. It's saying the weather's not right. The election isn't right. Whoever wins or loses, that shouldn't have happened that way. This person shouldn't act that way. That person shouldn't drive that way. The mind is constantly saying the world's not right. So we have to counter it. We can't. We can't let the mind win. We're hitting on a pretty high spiritual truth right now. We are not our thoughts. So I'm going to take us through I'm just going to take our listener through a little thought experiment here.
Yeah.
So you have a heart, right? And it's beating. Can you tell it to stop beating for 2 minutes?
Absolutely
You
not.
can't. Even if you tried, even if you were like, stop doing that.
Just pause.
Don't. It's just going to keep beating. And in the same way, you've got lungs and they breathe. Now, I could say, stop breathing for 5 minutes. And if you're an Olympic diver, maybe you could. But for you and me who don't practice that, it was actually impossible for you to hold your breath for 5 minutes. Your body will say, no, I'm just going to breathe because your lungs have a job. That job is to breathe. In the same way, tell your brain, stop thinking thoughts for 2 minutes. We can't. Like our heart that pumps blood and our air that pumps oxygen, our brain pumps thoughts. It's just part of the survival mechanism. But I'm not my heart. I could have a heart transplant and someone else's heart could go in me and I'd still be me. And I'm not these lungs. I could actually lose a lung and I'd still be me. And in the same way, I'm not this brain and I'm not these thoughts. I'm one that notices that there are thoughts that occur, that notices that my heart beats, that notices that my lungs are breathing. I am a separate being. I'm a soul, and all of us are. This is one of the keys to understanding how to be happy. Because yes, the brain always thinks negative thoughts to help us survive.
Mm-hmm.
It says, that's not right. And what it's doing is it's saying, that's not right, so go make it right. That's not right, so go make it right. It's trying to always tell us how we can survive at a higher level. If we let it run wild, yes, we'll accumulate success, we'll accumulate money, we'll reproduce, we'll have children, we'll do all the things it's telling us to do, and we'll survive, but we'll be miserable. And there are so many miserable multimillionaires out there. There are so many miserable billionaires out there. And some of them aren't. Some of them have picked it up and figured it out and said, hey, happiness isn't about my success or my survival. It's a skill that I can develop. So once we notice I'm not my thoughts. Then when that negative thought comes in, we say, do I want that one?
Yeah.
I don't need that one. The one that judges, that says, hey, anyone who likes Trump, that's not somebody I like. That thought,
Yeah.
that's not a thought that's going to make me happy today, because I love a lot of people who like Donald Trump. Or the one who says Kamala's awful, right? And whoever likes her, that's not the person that I want to hang out with. I love Kamala, and I love people that support Kamala as well. And so it's like these thoughts of divisiveness and criticism, and this isn't right and that's not right, that's not helpful to my happiness. What is helpful is accepting people where they are, loving them where they are,
Yeah.
appreciating and respecting the differences that they have of opinion than me, and allowing them to be free to have their own opinion without my judgment about why I think my opinion's better. It's not. My
Yeah.
opinion's good for me. Their opinion's good for them. And this is another key to happiness, is non-judgment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of people need to live in that non-judgment space for sure. Your work has impacted over 100,000 people around the world. What are some of the challenges you see most people facing when trying to get on this path of happiness or improve their happiness?
The biggest challenge is getting out of survival mode.
Yeah.
So Maslow has a hierarchy of needs. The first basic needs: food, water, shelter. If we're living paycheck to paycheck, that means all of our energy is going into just surviving. And it's going to be a little bit more of a challenge when our basic human needs aren't met to maintain happiness. What happens is there's a lot of anxiety there. Like, well, what if I need new tires in my car? What if I have a medical appointment? How am I going to be able to provide for my kids when rent's due and I can't pay my rent? So we do need to listen to your podcast and grow our entrepreneurial ability.
Yeah.
We need to listen to maybe some financial podcasts that talk about living below our means and starting to not buy the brand new car, but buy the car that we can afford, because we're not trying to keep up with society. Because as we just said at the beginning, the car doesn't make you happy. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Having some financial peace and some financial freedom and a little bit of financial flexibility, that does improve our happiness. There's a study that showed people actually aren't happier over $75,000 a year. But if you're a family that's making under $75,000 a year as a family combined income, that does have a negative impact on your happiness. So we do need to put in the work to figure out how to live below our means and create some margin financially, so that we're not in this fight or flight mode, constantly worried and anxious and stressed out. That's going to be the first thing we need to do. Beyond that, though, then once we get over that threshold, if you are a family income that's making over 75,000, the studies also show you could increase that to 150, you can increase that to 300, you can increase that to $1 million a year, and your happiness doesn't go up at all. So at that point, chasing more and more money can actually be a detriment to happiness. And I'll see this with a lot of really successful people, where they keep thinking that, well, the accumulation of money actually made me happier, but they didn't realize that it stopped. That at a certain point it stopped, and then at that point we want to start to focus on what really makes us happy. The end of our life, what we're going to look back on, is our relationships.
Yeah.
We're going to say, man, I wish I'd spent more time with my kids. I wish I'd called my best friends from high school and kept in touch. I wish that those great friendships that I had, that I felt like I was too busy for, that I'd actually poured into them. Well, let's do that now.
Yeah.
Rather than wait till we die and say, I didn't do it. That's going to make us happy, is spending time with our family and our friends. And we need to prioritize it beyond just being more and more and more and more successful. That's just not going to do it.
Yeah. What's so funny is that the mindset, and I talk about that a lot too on the podcast, because it's probably one of the most powerful tools we have, but it's also one of the hardest things for us to change, right? For us to really kind of like get into a different mindset, to change the way we think, to break those, I guess, generational thoughts and feelings that we've had, and to to pick up a daily practice. And like you said, in order to be happy, it takes practice. It takes daily practice. And it's something that, I myself try my best to work on. And some days I struggle,
Me too.
With the mindset, because it's like your mind automatically goes to, oh, I cannot believe I have this thing I got to do, and I got to take care of this. And you're right. And then it goes to the money piece, and you got to take care of all these different things. And it's such a hard thing to do. You mentioned something in your book, your Good Mood Revolution. You mentioned conscious happiness. What does that mean? How does that differ from just positive thinking?
So in the book, Good Mood Revolution, I identified the only 8 bad moods we can get into. And once we become conscious that there's only 8 forms of negativity and we know what they are, we can consciously decide if we want to stay there. In the book, I talk about how we can get out of each one of these 8 negative moods. So let's just get into them. And then Shaunie, you can tell me which of these 8 negative moods are like the most common for you. I'll tell you what the most common for me are. Like I told you, the only reason I study happiness is because I wasn't super happy and I wanted to be happier.
Yeah.
And so this is a journey for me, just like it's a journey for everybody. So the first is my generational trauma. The first of the 8 negative moods is shame. And shame says, I'm just not enough. And no matter what I do, I'll never be enough. Now, if I believe that, it's true. And a lot of really successful entrepreneurs believe shame, that I'm not enough. And they're trying to fill that void in them that they're not enough with more success. And they think if I just prove to the world that I'm enough with all of these accomplishments, then I'll finally be enough. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
The first of the 8 negative moods is shame, this feeling that I'm not enough. And it's not true. So we can counter that one by recognizing that we're already enough. And this, we've talked a little bit about it, but as soon as I get grateful, as soon as I focus in on my relationships, I notice that everything I need, I have. And why do I have everything I need? Because I'm enough, that God loved me enough to give me everything I need. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So maybe I am enough. And that lie of shame, typically it's inherited. My dad didn't think he was enough. And then he made sure I felt like I wasn't enough too. And because he's like, this is just the way it is. I'm not enough. You're not enough. And so and I could have just kept on believing it, but thankfully I fixed it before I gave it to my kids. The next of the 8 bad moods is guilt. And guilt says, I deserve to be punished. I've done bad things and I deserve punishment for that. A lot of times we punish ourselves. Guilt will show up as perfectionism, that everything has to be perfect because if it's not, then that would be bad. So because I'm so guilty that I'm not perfect enough, I'll just try to make everything perfect to show everybody that I am. But it's really just a guilt-ridden life. I was a huge perfectionist as well, and I had a lot of guilt. And so that's one that we're going to want to heal as well, because it's no fun. It's no fun. If everything always has to be perfect, we're sacrificing our joy trying to create things that we can't even create. Perfectionism is just a mirage. It doesn't even exist. The next of the negative moods is a really tough one. And it's this feeling of overwhelm, when we're just totally overwhelmed and that life kind of feels hopeless. We get overwhelmed when we're like that type A personality and we're like, I'll just do it all myself. I'm going to take it all on. We never ask for help.
That's mine right there.
Me too.
You don't even have to go any further. Oh my God. But okay, go ahead.
And for people like you and me who continue to just like carry the weight of the world on our shoulders and then get overwhelmed by it. One of the most beautiful things for us is recognizing when we're getting into this emotion and starting to ask for help proactively. And once we do, we start to recognize, wow, there's actually so many more available routes of people that I could call on that could help me, that want to help me, that want to support me. And then we realize I've never actually done anything on my own. It's this illusion that we're doing it on our own, but I'm not growing my own food. Somebody else is doing that for me. I'm actually not even shopping for my own food. Somebody else goes and picks
Yeah.
up my groceries and delivers them to my door. I'm not creating the electricity I use. I didn't design the car that I drive. I didn't design the chair I'm sitting in. I'm not doing anything on my own. So why do I feel like I got
Yeah.
to do these 5 things on my own? Everything else in my life is being supported by countless of other people. Can't I just get support on these few things?
Yeah.
And so that's one of but it's conscious happiness. So the conscious awareness of, oh, I'm getting into the pattern of overwhelm again. We just need to wake up from it. Okay, I know where this is going to go. If I continue to put more on my shoulders and think no one's here to support me, I'm going to start to feel totally overwhelmed. And then I might even break down and I might have to stay in bed for a couple of days because it's just too much.
Yeah.
So before I get down that path, I'm going to break the pattern. I'm going to say, okay, I can only do so much today. What's the number one thing? If I could just get one thing done today that would make the biggest impact, what would I do? Okay, now what else on this list could I ask someone else to do? And what else on this list can I just say, no, I can't do? Because sometimes it's okay to just say no. See, these kind of feed into each other though. That perfectionism of guilt tells us that I can't say no sometimes because I don't want them to see me as incapable.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 That overwhelming feeling puts me out. And I don't know what it is. I feel like, I thought about this before and I'm like, am I just proud to say I do it all? Does it make me feel like proud of something? But yet then I'm exhausted and I'm tired and I feel like I'm stretching myself too thin. But I tell people I have to do it. I do it all. Don't nobody help me. I'm quick to say that when it's like,
that was my mom.
Yeah, but is that good?
That was my mom. So a lot of times these bad mood habits are inherited.
Yes.
My mom had to do it all. She was a total martyr.
My mom did too.
She was a total martyr. She would take care of my sick aunt. She'd take care of all the kids. She was paying all the bills. She was like getting us through school.
Yeah. Yep.
And she didn't ever take time for herself. And she was exhausted all the time. Well, what did I do? I'm a good son. So I watched exactly how she behaved and then I took it. And I'm like, well, that's the way I need to behave.
Exactly.
But it's not a happy way to behave.
Oh my God, that is so true. That's exactly how my mother was. And I look at her and that's how I am now.
Me too.
My God.
So as she was grinding, she was working multiple jobs. She was a single mom. She had 4 kids. She was a secretary. Man, it was hard. It was hard. And then I find her crying in the closet. And it was so overwhelming what she was taking on that she just would break down in tears. And I felt terrible. But then I went ahead and mimicked the behavior. So that's consciousness. Now we're conscious that this is a pattern and it's not a healthy, happy pattern. So, maybe my mom had to do that for a period of time.
Yeah.
And then she got out of that period of time. She ended up getting a promotion. She invested in herself. And then we ended up doing it better off by the time I got into high school. She didn't have to grind the way that she grinded anymore. Well, I'm at a point in my life, I don't have to grind the way that my mom had to grind. And when I feel overwhelmed, I have people I can ask to help me. And maybe if we don't, we could say, man, do I have $1,000 a month that I could pay somebody as a virtual professional?
Yeah.
Maybe I could have somebody working 40 hours a week for me that would do a really good job. And it'd be $12,000 for the whole year to pay somebody to give me an extra set of hands to check my email or to schedule things or to get back to different people. I could double myself for $1,000 a month. Could I invest in that? Now, I'm not saying we're there. Not everybody has $12,000, but if we're sitting here and we're like, okay, I'm making 100, the happiness threshold is 75. If I'm making 100, could I give 12 and then I'd be at 88, but I'd have all this free time I could spend with people I care about. Would my life go up in quality? Well, my money went down a little bit. these are the decisions that we want to make. But again, at being an entrepreneur focused show, I know from personal experience, if somebody invests $12,000 in a full-time assistant that can do things for them, their income is going to go up by more than 12,000.
Oh yeah.
Because now we got a full-time person that we're just like, well, what else could we do? Like,
yes,
man, I got to keep you busy. What else can we do? And then guess what? You come up with lots of ideas. They're smart too. They come up with lots of ideas. I have 16 people from around the world that work for me in my companies.
Wow.
And they are brilliant, like college degrees, so loving, so caring. They're part of our family. Like, I'm having them do Christmas parties together, and it's a really cool thing when we think we have to do it all on our own is to say, well, if I don't have to do it all on my own, how could I not? And that's when our brain is really creative and it starts to come up with ideas. Another thing, my wife and I, we have 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
So their ages 11 to 3. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And my wife is she's like me. She thinks she has to do it all on her own. So she does all the laundry. She cooks all the meals. She gets the lunches ready. She does the homework. And now the kids are doing cross country. They're doing cheerleading. They're doing soccer. They're doing basketball.
Busy.
And I'm like, Katie, we can't. Like this is a lot. We need some help.
It is.
We need some help. And I'm like, this is what we should do. We should hire someone to do the laundry. She's like, absolutely not.
That's me.
I'm like,
no way.
I'm like, you like doing laundry? She's like, we don't need someone to do our laundry for us. And I'm like, yeah, but you do a lot, honey. And so guess what? No one does our laundry for us. She will not give that one up. I don't know why, but she won't. But what we did do is my mom lives close. And I said, hey, Mom, could we pay you just a little bit every week? And you help us run shuttles with the kids. And when I have to be at a work meeting and Katie has to be at a different school function, could you be here with the other 2? And she said, you don't have to pay me for that. And I said, it would feel better to me if we're asking you to do, this isn't just grandma time now. This is like having a household assistant. It would feel better to me if we gave you some money every week. And then, because then we don't have to feel guilty about it. Remember I said guilt was one of the 8 bad moods?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to feel guilty about it. I want you to feel like empowered that now you've got some money, you can go on some trips and go see, other grandkids and things like that. And that was an idea that came to us 6 months ago. It's been amazing. Now my kids have more grandma time.
Yeah.
Katie has more time to do all that laundry.
Because I know it's a lot of laundry.
It is so much laundry.
Okay. It is. Trust me, I got loads to do right now myself upstairs. Oh my goodness. So yeah.
So Shaunie, I don't know if any of that helps, but once you recognize that, okay, I'm just back in this state of overwhelm. Stop and say, okay, I don't have to do all this on my own. How could I ask for help right now? And what happens is we're so creative. You're going to start to come up with all kinds of creative ideas that aren't super costly that then give you the support that you need. So that, because here's the thing, your podcast brightens up the lives of so many people. The world needs you at your brightest, your best, your most powerful. And that's going to be a well-rested Shaunie. It's not going to be one that's doing everything on her own.
Oh yeah. Because you're right. It's the household, it's the husband, it's the kids, it's everything. You're just like, I just need a moment to just sit and like, okay, what's going on now? Halloween was just crazy, right? So it's like the candy, the kids are just wired now. So yeah, it can be a lot. So the overwhelming feeling is a lot for me too. And I do have to work more on that. I have to think about ways that I can kind of relieve myself from certain things because I don't have to do it all, but I just don't understand why I feel like I do. That's the thing where I'm like, okay, I need to continue to do, because I'm big on doing self-work as well. right? Working on myself, trying to understand where certain things come from, where they rooted from. And so I have to continue working on that because I don't know why I still feel like I have to do it. You know what I mean? Because there are people who do certain things better than I do. But I always feel like, no, I'm going to do that. You do something else, and I'm taking on something that I should have just gave to someone else.
Yeah, there's a belief structure in me. This is why I do it. That does feel like proud of myself for doing it, for carrying it all. And so you'll just want to find that belief structure and then dismantle it. Because the most successful people in the world are not doing their own laundry. They're not. They're not even driving their own car.
They're not cleaning their own home.
They're not cleaning their own house. The most successful people in the world have so many people supporting them. I talked about the 2 presidential candidates. Like, imagine the staffs of people around them. They're so high level and they're so needed to do. And this is what I'm saying about you. The world needs you to do so much brilliant work, inspiring us that it's okay to give some of the tasks that you don't really make a difference on to somebody who would make a difference. And I talked about the remote team members we have. Like, they come to me in tears. They say, we bought our first car because of the job you gave me. And now I can drive my parents to the doctor, where before we had to take the bus. And I'm like, wow, okay, so those tasks that I let go of, that I really didn't want to do, that felt like just overwhelming, I gave to somebody else, and now they're living the life of their dreams.
Wow.
And so that's another one of these things is, well, if I don't want to do it, who would want to do it? Somebody out there. That's their dream job, is being close to you. So so we've gone into 3 of the 8 negative moods. I'll just name the other ones.
Okay. Yeah.
After that overwhelm, we get into sadness.
Mm-hmm.
From sadness, there's fear and anxiety. This is a really rampant in our society right now, is fear and anxiety.
Anxiety. Yeah.
After that is anger. And then this is a shocking one for a lot of people, but the 8th negative mood is pride.
Mm-hmm.
And you would kind of hit on that one when you said, maybe I feel proud of myself that I do all this work on my own. It's actually not a happy place.
Yeah. That's probably what that is.
So those are the 8 negative moods. Once we understand the 8, and we understand it's nothing personal. Anytime I get into one of these 8 negative moods, it's just a theme of consciousness every single human gets into. We're like, okay, so if it's universal, then there's got to be a universal way out of it. And there is.
Yes.
And so each one of these universal moods has thought patterns that we get into, and then there are thought patterns that get us out of it so that we can get back into happier states.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. Those moods, those mood patterns, and just identifying which one you're in. And I feel like, first of all, I probably can hit all of them, honestly, right? I go through sadness, anger, and then unhappiness. And then I think the anger part is the fact that you're like, well, why am I not further than I should be? You know what I mean? Then you become angry in terms of like, you're not where you think you should be. And so then that turns into anger, and you're just like, what am I not doing? And I need to do more of. And then it becomes the overwhelm again, because now I'm trying to put more on myself because I feel overwhelmed, because I feel like I need to hurry up and do more to get to where I need to be.
Think about how positive that can be too. So I talk about how each of these bad moods has a positive aspect. Anger can be, anger's actually, so they go from the most destructive to the least destructive. Anger is the second to last. So anger is one of the least destructive bad moods. People always think it's the most destructive. Of course, if I unload on somebody in anger and I shout at them, I could do a lot of damage. But anger can actually be so positive too, from what you just said. Like, hey, I'm upset. I'm not where I want to be. Yeah. And then we say, what could I do about it? Well, we got all this energy, because anger creates a lot of energy. And once we say, what could I do about it? Then we could get some creativity going on, and then we could do some things. But now we need to be angry that we take on too much. And so we go back into, we say, okay, I'm angry that I get overwhelmed. And so I'm going to do something about that. I'm going to get some help so that I can focus on the things that are going to make the biggest impact in the world. And
Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
we can start to use the negative emotion in quotations of anger in a really positive way. Like anger is the emotion of change. And if we use
Yeah.
the change to make positive changes, it can be really good.
Listen, I gotta get the book.
Shaunie, I'm going to send you a signed copy.
Listen,
I
please do.
will.
I gotta get it. I gotta get it. I gotta have it. And you know what? I'm gonna buy a few because I think I'm gonna give some to people for Christmas because they need it too. Right? Because they need to
You should be
recognize
happier. You should be happier.
you should be happy. You get happiness and you get happiness.
So the second half of the book is about 8 positive states. We went through
Yeah.
the first half here about the 8 negative states. The second half is about 8 positive states and how we can nurture them. And we talked about one of them of
Yeah.
gratitude. But there's 7 other positive attributes we can nurture. Another one we talked about was connection, but that positive state is love. I've been hitting on this one kind of throughout our conversation. Like I want to love everybody. Anytime we're loving, compassionate, forgiving, anytime we're in that space of just love, even if somebody's not that cool, if we can love them and just recognize they're on their path, we're happy. So love is a really cool state of being, but it's hard to get to if we don't clear up the 8 negative moods.
Yeah. Yeah. I can definitely believe that. What would you say to our listeners who feel that they can't be happy until they achieve like a certain goal or a certain level of success?
That's totally normal to think, and it's not true. There's the reason that we think we can't be happy until we achieve this thing, and then we'll talk about why it's not true. But the reason we think that is that it's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
So remember I was talking about how our brain is a survival brain. It wants us to hoard money and hoard success and hoard status and hoard power because if you think about it, we came up in tribes. The most powerful person ate the most, they were going to survive. The most likable person that had the most respect of the tribe, they weren't going to be killed, they were going to survive. The person who hoarded the most food or the most supplies, or in our case, money, they were probably set for a few years and they were going to survive. So the brain is going to say, I'll promise I'll give you happiness down the road if you just do these things, it'll increase your survival. But the brain does not care if you're happy. It never cares.
Yeah.
It's like our heart is beating to keep us alive. Our lungs are breathing to keep us alive. Our brain is saying hoard power, money, fame, and success to keep you alive. But then now we're going to counter it. We're going to say, okay, everything I need to survive, I already have. So this is me quieting the brain down that I actually don't need to do those things to be happy. And here's the other cool thing. The happier I feel, the more successful I am. So I'll give you another little thought experiment. Think about a day when you said the wrong thing to your husband and he got so mad.
Yeah, I could think about a few of those days. Okay, yes.
On those days, we get so distraught because we feel bad that we can't even concentrate on work.
Yep. That's
so
true.
When we feel bad, we are not operating at our best. Now, I'll give you another example. Think of a day where like you feel so beautiful, your hair's just right, you're like wearing a confident outfit, you're like walking down the street and you just feel like on top of the world, you're whistling to a song, you're saying hi to every person at the coffee shop, and like you just feel on top of the world. On a day when you feel so happy and so amazing and just being in yourself, like on that day, what could you accomplish at work?
Probably everything. Everything.
So we want to get to that feeling of like I'm so confident with who I am. Confidence is one of the 8 good moods I talk about. And I feel so like I just feel in my essence, in my light. I'm so beautiful right now, exactly as I am. Because in that emotional state of just pure joy and just being authentic to ourselves, we can do anything. Creativity shows up, ideas start flowing from us. We can create so much abundance from this place of happiness. So to answer the question, what would I say to the person that says, I got to achieve this thing before I can be happy? It's not true. And what I want you to do is to focus on how can I be in my essence today and feel my best, because you'll create way more success like that than you will the other way.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, this has been a good episode. I can talk forever. We can go on forever with this, man. I swear we can. But I'm going to bring it to a close. But I want to know what's next for you. What's next with your mission for a Good Mood Revolution? Like what you have coming up that we need to be excited about.
Well, just like you, I am working so hard on my podcast. And so my podcast got the same name of the book. It's also called Good Mood Revolution. And, I love what you're doing. I love your mission. And if one of your listeners is saying, hey, I want to add a second podcast to my listening schedule every week, I'd say, go check out the Good Mood Revolution podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just talking every week about how to feel happier.
Listen, I'm subscribing because I need it. I am. I'm subscribing. I'm telling people to go because it's definitely needed. And I think we need to learn how to be happy. Happiness is something everybody wants. Everybody wants it. People talk about it, but don't really know how to get it. So to have a podcast, to have a book, to have someone like you that can actually give us practical steps towards it, I think is amazing. And I think is a great mission. So thank you for coming on the show, Matt. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, you've got one of the top shows in the world. It has been such an honor, and you're just lovely. You're so great to talk with. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, this is the Girl Take Note podcast. I am Shaunie Sanders, and I will talk to you next time.